We're talking some hot topics today, Nate. So let's get right into it. Who is your first buy for this week?
Apparently, everyone has forgotten about Lad McConkey already because I didn't really know who to put down as a buy. I filled out the rest of the show sheet before I filled out my buy for this week because I didn't really have anyone I felt really good about. You know me, I'm always looking for value. I want to go buy Brian Thomas Jr. right now, of course, but can I get him for a value? I don't know about that. So I was looking at values, and the Chargers just had a bye week this past week. They haven't been super, exciting or loud to start this season. They've been winning a couple games, but Herbert hasn't thrown for a lot of yards. McConkey has been productive, but we haven't seen like 150 yards like Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors are doing. No, but over there on the West Coast, Lad McConkey's having a pretty good start to his rookie season, and we need to be paying attention, which is why I want him to be my buy this week because a lot of people aren't paying attention right now. Right now, he is the fourth among rookies in yards per route run with 2.1 yards per route run. There's only 4 rookies over 2 yards per route run. It's Malik Neighbors. It is Brian Thomas Jr. It is Jordan Whittington, and it is Lad McConkey.
Jordan Whittington one surprises me. I won't lie.
It does. It surprises me, but also it doesn't. I feel like McVay and Stafford together, it doesn't matter which wide receiver you throw out there. He's going to find somebody and make them productive. Now, this has been a really good showing from Jordan Whittington. A little side note, I do have a couple shares of him. I talked about him actually on the podcast probably back in July or August because he was making some noise in training camp. I don't necessarily foresee him becoming, a significant fantasy piece long-term, but definitely a good buy while Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua both still hurt. But I do believe in Lad McConkey long-term. He's got 2 touchdowns through 4 games, 5 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown just 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs. Pretty good performance in his last game. And also currently 5.9 Yak Rec, which is a solid number. He's doing pretty well there. I believe he's 5th right now among rookies in Yak Rec. So he's really having a solid start to the year, and he's linked to a really good quarterback in Justin Herbert. Now, I know the production overall, the raw numbers have not been there. Herbert's not throwing for 300 yards, 400 yards like he used to. But McConkey is still linked to this guy. And I don't think they're going to need to have a ton of volume for McConkey to be fantasy relevant because it's going to be pretty narrow focus towards him getting targets. There's not a lot of other competition there. I know Quentin Johnson has had a little bit of a re-emergence, but Josh Palmer has really done nothing. They haven't really had any tight ends that have done anything. Their running backs have not been catching passes. So in the pass game, it is really McConkey, and it is Quentin Johnson right now. So give me the McConkey. Right now, you can get it for a 2nd-round pick. I don't know if you can do it every single time, but people are forgetting. I know they paid a 1st-round pick for him a couple months ago. I know. Maybe you picked him up in the early 2nd. But people are moving on now. It's a week-to-week game sometimes. And, you might be able to get him for a 2nd, maybe a 2nd and a 3rd. I'd be more than happy to do that. Rashid Shaheed for Lad McConkey. Rashid Shaheed, I know, is making Chris Olave not look very good. He's actually outperforming Chris Olave so far this year. But I'll take Lad McConkey long-term. I don't necessarily have the same faith in Rashid Shaheed long-term. And then another trade I saw that I'd be more than willing to do, trading Terry McLaurin for Lad McConkey and something on top. In this instance, it was a 2nd-round pick. I think that might be a bit rich. A 3rd-round pick, I'd be happy with McConkey in the 3rd for Terry McLaurin.
This is obviously very situational dependent. If you're not competing, I could see buying Lad McConkey. Or if you have the pieces to move and you want him for the future, if you're one of those guys, I think I can compete, but I'm going to start retooling now. A lot of people do that. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, I have no problem moving the 2nd. Like I said, if you have those pieces, Shaheed, I'd probably rather have. I think I'm in the thick of it. And I'd rather have McLaurin right now as well. But hey, in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on team makeup, could look a lot different. So let's talk about a sell for me. That is Cleveland Browns running back Jerome Ford is 173 on Keep Trade Cut, running back 48. But Nate, the Browns offense not looking so good right now.
No.
And they need running back help. And that's why the practice window has been open for Nick Chubb. Full year removed from his ACL injury. That was week 2 of last year. I don't anticipate him playing this week against Philadelphia. Seems like a stretch, maybe in a week or 2. Still, I don't think Chubb's going to be the bell cow right away when he's cleared, but I think Jerome Ford's time as the primary back in Cleveland is coming to an end. Look, and the fact is, like I said, the Browns offense hasn't looked good. If Nick Chubb fixes that offense to some capacity, it's going to be at a detriment of Jerome Ford. Like, he's been serviceable, all right, but he's not been explosive. He only has 1 touchdown in the season. He's 22nd in reception yards, yet 3rd in receptions for running backs. 26th in fantasy point per games with 11.9, 20th in breakaway runs, and 23rd in breakaway run rate. So he's been just okay, if that. Let's talk about what he costs though, Nate. I got some trades on here that I think you might like. I specifically put some of these on here for you.
I could tell.
Jerome Ford and a 25 third for Tank Bigsby.
Give me Tank.
Yeah, I think right now I want Tank, man. He's just
never wrong, just early.
Yeah, hey, listen, until I'm wrong, I'm right. That's what I tell my wife all the time. She does not agree. Jerome Ford and a 25 third for Chase Brown.
Yeah, I'm feeling Chase Brown right now. I think we might be talking about him on the next podcast, maybe. But I'm about it.
Yeah, me too. And this one, T. Higgins, Jerome Ford, and Trey Sermon for Alvin Kamara. So we have 2 declining assets possibly, and a guy who could be a team's wide receiver 1, depending on your team makeup. For Alvin Kamara, this sounds to me like a trade where somebody's making a push for the playoffs. That's what that trade sounded like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the package side. I mean, I value in a vacuum, I value T. Higgins higher than Alvin Kamara. Now, even if you're a competitive team, depending on your makeup, you could want the running back versus the wide receiver. But I'll go with the package here if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I don't like giving 2 2 for 1 running backs is hard enough, and then throwing T. Higgins on top of it if you're trying to get Kamara. I lean the package side as well.
And Kamara's a little old. He's still doing just well, but a little up there.
Nate, do you have a hold or avoid for us?
I do. I'm holding on to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He's had a little bit of up and down start to the year. He had a game week 2 where he was over 100 yards. Great game against the Patriots. Has been a little bit hit and miss since then. Some games 30, 40, 50 yards. Hasn't really had that peak again. But still, wide receiver 21 on keep trade cut. Wide receiver 27 so far in the season, averaging 12.1 points per game. It's not a bad start to the season. Jaxon Smith-Njigba now maybe a little bit less than expectations from where we originally had him back when he was in Ohio State. But with the Seahawks offense, I think we're seeing this Seahawks offense evolve. They're becoming pretty pass heavy. Geno Smith looks great so far this season, continuing where he, kind of left off in 2022. He had a bit of a dip last year, but he looked great in 2022, and we're seeing that Geno again. So I'm excited about that. And we're starting to see maybe JSN taking over for Tyler Lockett. I know this has kind of been dragged out a lot longer than any of us wanted it to be, but he did out target Tyler Lockett this past week. And also so far in the season, 29 receptions, 257 yards, 1 touchdown. This last game against the Giants, I guess 4 receptions, 31 yards, not super impressive, but he did score a touchdown. Tyler Lockett had 1 less target. They both ran just about the same amount of routes. Tyler Lockett almost exclusively outside, while JSN almost exclusively in the slot. So these guys are all coexisting together. DK Metcalf having a pretty good start to his year as well. Like, I have him as my hold because I'm not willing to just go out there and buy him no matter what based off of this start. But I don't think the start has been disappointing enough for me to go and sell him. I think there's still been enough there to get me excited about what could happen the rest of the season with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I still think we could see it with him where he really takes that next step in a couple weeks. So if I am going to go out there and buy Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I would move Xavier Worthy for JSN. That might be a little hot takey, but this is a good time to move Xavier Worthy. He just scored another touchdown last night on a handoff from Travis Kelce. I'm taking notice that a lot of his touchdowns come from trick plays. There's something to be said for that. And also, Juju Smith-Schuster absolutely outplayed him last night when they really needed a wide receiver to step up. So, not that I don't believe in Xavier Worthy, but I don't know if that Chiefs offense is going to allow him to be any more than a rich man's Rashid Shaheed, which is actually kind of working out pretty well this year so far. I would also move a 2025 first for Jaxon Smith-Njigba, but I would also sell JSN for Jayden Reed, or sell JSN in a first for AJ Brown in a second. I saw someone make that deal on Dynasty Daddy, and I'd be interested in making that deal myself.
Interesting.
Hit or miss with JSN. I'm still holding on to him. I still believe in JSN.
I'm going to buy a wide receiver. I'm going to try to buy in on Chicago Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze, player 44 on keep trade cut, wide receiver 18. Caleb Williams starting to look like an NFL quarterback now. We see him scrambling a little bit less in the pocket, starting to calm down. Something we knew he would, and we were pretty confident in that. So hopefully he can keep it up. I think he's a good 1B in that offense with DJ Moore. even though he's only had one really good game this year, that was week 3 against the Colts, 6 catches, 112 yards, and 1 touchdowns. And look, as Caleb Williams improves, I expect Rome Odunze to improve with him. These are both rookies. They're growing pains here. The things are just going to happen. Like Nate pointed out, and it's a really good point. A lot of guys play on week to week. People tend to get desperate. You know, even at this point in the season, I think you could possibly snag one here if you got someone that's not happy with what he's not seeing. So
Yeah.
here's some trades that I saw for Rome Odunze. Odunze for Xavier Worthy and Tajay Spears. You just mentioned about moving on. Yeah, Tony Pollard also has looked a lot better than I expected him to this year.
Yeah.
Next one, Rome Odunze for Dontavian Wicks, a 25 third and a 26 third.
Yeah, that was a trade in a moment of time when everyone thought Dontavian Wicks was about to go off this weekend, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think you can make that happen again.
And Rome Odunze for DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney, who Nate said to sell a couple weeks ago. So here's your chance to do that. What do you think of that last one?
Yeah, I think that last one,
a little rich.
Kind of go either way because Darnell Mooney has been good. And I'm glad you brought it up so I can apologize. You know, Mooney, you know, it's not every week Kirk Cousins is going to throw for 500-something yards, but congratulations, everyone who was starting Mooney. I had him on my bench in the leagues I had him on. So I got my punishment. Don't worry. Still not going to say that he's going to be more consistent moving forward than Christian Kirk, who's been pretty consistent since he's been back. But I will throw one up for Darnell Mooney. He's been playing pretty well.
All right, Nate, do you have a sell for us?
I do.
You've been selling this guy a lot. What's up, man? What's up with the hate?
It's not hate. It's not hate. It's just I like fantasy points. Okay. And yeah, the value is I would also buy this guy. I still like this guy long term. Just you know, when I'm looking to sell a player right now, I don't think Tank Dell is going to have a great season. We're kind of already seeing it already through a couple games. You know, Nico Collins is the guy there without a doubt. He has established himself as one of the top wide receivers in the league. Now, I'm telling you to sell Tank Dell. I did put this in the show sheet before they changed Nico Collins from day to day to week, which might make your sell even easier. You might get more value out of Tank Dell if you were to sell him right now because people are going to be expecting that production, which I'm sure we'll see. So I will probably look silly for saying to sell Tank Dell because he's probably going to go off this next week against the Patriots. But currently, wide receiver 32 on Keep Trade Cut. Wide receiver 72 in the season, though, Mike. That's why I'm selling him. He's averaging 7.4 points per game. It's not good. I thought that him and Stephon Diggs could kind of share that wide receiver 2 role for the Texans, but it is firmly Stephon Diggs so far. Tank Dell has been locked into that wide receiver 3 role, and he's just running a lot of wind sprints out there. I think I mentioned it maybe a week or two ago. His yards per route run, currently 0.97 yards per route run. Anything under 1, not great. That's bringing back Jahan Dotson last year, running wind sprints out there all the time and not having any yardage for it. That's what it looks like Tank Dell's doing right now. I'm not saying that Tank Dell's the next Jahan Dotson, though you probably could pull together a lot of similarities so far. But next to Nico Collins, he's always going to be the number 2. Even with Stephon Diggs. Because, Mike, I know you put on here a question, you know, what about when Diggs isn't there? Because he's only there for 1 year. Diggs is not going to be there after the season.
Yeah.
Well, I think Tank Dell is the next guy. He's not the guy. So Nico Collins is going to be that guy. CJ Stroud obviously can support 2 wide receivers. So I don't think Tank Dell is going to fall off the face of the planet. But I think we're looking maybe more at some inconsistency week to week, more of that wide receiver 3, that wide receiver 25 to 36 range on a seasonal finish. Then maybe the potential and expectations we were giving him before the season, where we're expecting him to maybe, be that top 24 wide receiver perennially. And I don't know if that's going to happen at this point with how well Nico Collins is doing. If they want to continue to bring in other wide receivers to help out these guys, if Stephon Diggs leaves, who's to say they're not going to bring somebody else in as well to continue to help out CJ Stroud and have more wide receivers around him. I just don't like the production so far. I'm going to stay away for the moment. I'm still going to keep him on a couple of my leagues. But if I can sell him for 2 seconds or a first, I'm looking to do that. TJ Hawkinson, I think, is a good move if you need a tight end and you're not really worried about production at this moment. Or if you need a running back, I think Tank Dell for David Montgomery could be a pretty good move as well.
One last one for you guys, and I'm holding Miami Dolphins running back Jaylen Wright. It's 134 and Keep Trade Cut. Running back 36. Look, Devon Achane got banged up. Raheem Mostert's still a little banged up. He's not going to be there forever. I'd said before the season, I think moving forward, it's Devon Achane, and I think it's Jaylen Wright. Jaylen Wright stepped in. And on the season, though, Nate, check this out: 29 carries, 139 yards, and 0 touchdowns. But week 5 against New England, 13 carries, 86 yards, and no touchdowns. I like what I see from him. You know, we're going to, unfortunately, Nate, be talking about it this offseason. We're going to have to rethink day three running backs because guys like Jaylen Wright, we have Kyron Williams, who I said to sell before the season. I'm really regretting that right now because I got a league where I couldn't move, and I'm glad nobody wanted him at that point in time. But, you know, Nate, you said to buy him previously, so let's not sell after one good game. We see that down the stretch, the most important thing is depth, 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 and that is at every single position. The last thing I want to say too is the Chargers are coming off a bye. I like to try to buy players going into a bye week if I'm interested in them because you got guys, they got gaps in their lineups. If you could help fill that void and also help your team out in the future, definitely want to go ahead and do that.